Greetings, everyone. I hope everyone's doing wonderful on this Juneteenth weekend. Lots of celebrations going on. I wasn't going to do a video, but I felt compelled to do so. Being that I started a new job this week, it was so much going on. I was like, no, I don't feel like doing a video. But my topic for today encouraged me to do so, is perseverance. I have persevered through so many things within my lifetime, and so many of you guys can relate. I felt the need to share my experiences. One thing I wanted to talk about is when I was a child, like from the age of 4 up until probably ninth grade. I had a hard time reading. I had a hard time writing. I had a hard time. My comprehension level was always on point. Like I could figure some shit out. But as far as memorizing things and sounding out words and putting them together and like the TH words and the WH words, like my cousins can attest to this. Like I got my ass whipped so many times because I just couldn't remember. And I think once I was disciplined for not remembering, not knowing the words, it just became fear. And I just didn't want to try, or it was just too scary, the fact that I just wasn't catching on. And the New York City school system didn't catch it. They just passed me from grade to grade to grade. And long behold, I entered the ninth grade just barely reading, just barely. I'm talking about bare minimum reading. And it wasn't until I got to my ninth grade English class. Shout outs to Mr. Cabot. He just retired this year. I just wanted to show him so much love and support, because if it wasn't for this man, I don't know what inspired him to do this for me, but he gave me a book that was called Flowers in the Attic. In ninth grade, Flowers in the Attic was like a porno, or it was like X videos or something like that, but a novel. So I skimmed it and I seen some like sexually explicit parts, and I was just like, dang, it encouraged me to go get a dictionary, and it encouraged me to go get other resources to find out what the words, how you pronounce them, and what the words meant, and how to read it. And from that book, Flowers in the Attic, it just opened me up to reading. And I was able to read. I don't know what happened. It was just like a gift from overnight. After that book, I was able to read. Not read at like the greatest level, but read with comprehension and understand. And I didn't have I didn't feel self-conscious about myself during reading time or whatever. And for some reason, he just knew to give me that book. So Mr. Cabot, thank you so much. If you watch this video, or if anybody watches this video, tell him like he was a blessing to me. So after that, I struggled with math in school. New York State has a thing called the Regents, and I took the Regents 10 times. I kid you not. And each time I failed. And with each failing grade, I thought less and less and less about myself. And it was just like a downward spiral to the fact that I didn't even graduate from high school. I had all my 42 credits, but in New York State, you needed like 5 Regents to graduate, and I only had 4. So all the years that I spent in high school was null and void because I couldn't pass that test. So if you can imagine, my self-esteem and self-confidence went out the window. So I was just like down and out. And at that time, like after that time, I had met my daughter's father. And subsequently, like a year or 2 later, I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter. And I was like, dang, like I can't be a mom and I don't have an education. Like I have nothing to show for it. Like how am I going to be a mom, and what am I going to tell my daughter? So I went, it was this place called Faye's Piggyback on 145th Street, but they're no longer there. I went there and I begged her. I was like, Miss, it was May. School was over in June. I was like, this is my situation. I know I can pass this test. I just need an opportunity. She was just like, well, come to the class for a month and we're going to see where you at. And shout outs to Nikki if you listening. Nikia. I went to elementary school with her. I ended up sitting with her at the GED testing site. On the first day of taking the GED test, I was late. My mother had stopped off at the supermarket. She was supposed to drive me there, but I ended up getting to the GED test late. If anybody knows who take the GED, it's a time test and you got to be on time. No games, like it's on and popping. But I got there late. I only had 5 minutes to do the math section. So in my mind, I was just like, I cannot fail. Like, I got to pass this. So I sat down for the test. Five minutes left for the math section. Shout out to Miss E. Miss Ensminger. I believe that's her name, because she taught me a method that if you don't have any time, just mark C all the way down or something. Like, go through the test and find out what you know, like the 1 second answers. And then if you don't have no more time, just mark C all the way down. Shout out to her. So I did that method with math. Like, if I could get the math question in 1 second, I was bam, 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 bam. But anyway, fast forward, I was the last person each day to take the GED. I was the last person in the class. So not knowing, I was just optimistic about whether or not I passed or failed. Long behold, like, I passed the math section with flying colors. Like, I blew the GED test out the roof. So it built my confidence back up in test taking and things like that. Like, wow, I was like, wow, I'm not dumb. Like, I'm not stupid. Like, I can meet the criteria of New York State. So it did boost my confidence level tremendously, but it was like bittersweet. I still felt regret and remorse about not graduating from high school. So even though I got my GED, it was just like they said, a good enough diploma. And I felt like I was superior, like I was great. I didn't deserve that good enough. I mean, like, I worked harder than to just get that GED. But anyway, I ended up having my son. And after my son was born in 08, a friend of mine wanted to encourage me to go back to school, and I just wasn't feeling it. And I was just like, nah, I'm not going back to school. Like, I just don't feel like it. Like, I just don't want that headache. And subsequently, like a year later, or 2009 or 2010, like, she convinced me, was like, girl, they giving out refund checks. And I was like, well, shit, sign me up. Like, you should have started with that. So I ended up registering in school, and I ended up going to school for like a year. I remember the first day of class, I was so nervous, and she was just like, this is adult continuing education, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I don't know. I got 2 kids. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put the time, the effort, the energy. And lo and behold, I was rocking out those classes to my surprise. Like, I was knocking them back. So, like, around 2011, I got a job with the New York State Department of Parks. And I ended up leaving school because I felt like getting money was it was necessary for me at that time. So I ended up leaving school, and I worked at the Parks Department for like 4 years. Within that time, when I first started at the Parks Department, like, I started out seasonal. And within that season, like, I was sent back home, but I had interviewed for the horticulture department. Long and behold, before the season started back up again, the horticulture department called me, and I had a permanent job at the horticulture department. So within a month of working at within the horticulture department, I've received a phone call that my mom is in the hospital, and I should get there quick. I got to the hospital. Like, those days was like the worst days of my life. My mother ended up dying within the first month of me working there in 2012. So my life was turned upside down. And my husband at the time ended up adopting my 2 sisters. One had a disability, multiple disabilities, and multiple health complications and stuff like that. So I was just like, all right, like, fuck it. Like, this is what I got to do. I got to take care of my family. So I continued to go to work and take care of my family. Like, my sister needed hands-on care, like, every day. So I never really got to go on vacations each year that I worked there, because every time it was vacation time for me, I had to stay in the hospital with my sister. So it was like clockwork. Like, every year it was vacation time, it was like hospital visits. So I never got to like go on vacations or anything like that. And it is what it is. I didn't regret it. I still don't regret it, because that's what needed to be done. And All right, so I ended up getting pregnant while on the job. I'm gonna stop right here and then make another video and continue.